about to lose his mind. So he creates a special division of the Luftwaffe whose sole purpose is to find and destroy the mosquitoes. Okay, they're already struggling in the war, and this man has now just cut out an entire section of his air force to do nothing but hunt down these wooden planes and try to destroy them.
Wow. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out wrecking and trolling the Germans with a wooden plane, the DH-98 Mosquito, obviously uploaded by the Fat Electrician here. Yes guys, now this has been recommended quite a bit. Actually, after we checked out the Doom Turtle video, which is our last Fat Electrician reaction that we did, that was awesome to check out. Obviously a very useless vehicle in the grand scheme of things, but purpose built. You know, the Americans kind of built it for one thing. That one thing kind of got achieved way before it actually got kind of done, way before the concept was finished, and they only really ever built a prototype. In this case, I don't really know too much about the DH-98 Mosquito. I believe it is British, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't actually know really anything about it. Obviously, a wooden plane, so I'm assuming probably a very low production cost vehicle for probably the results that it got. If I had to assume, there was probably more than just one prototype built. I think the Mosquito, they actually made quite a few of those, if I'm not mistaken. I've heard the name before. I just know literally nothing about the airframe or what the aircraft actually is. I believe it's a fighter, but I'm not really actually too sure on it. So don't really have too much more to say about this one. We're obviously going to be going into this one pretty much blind. If you guys enjoy the reactions, hit that like button. Of course, subscribe for more content from me. Leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Of course, big thank you to all of our members joining Discord if you're not in it. And without any further delay, guys, I said we get right into this one. We're obviously going to leave a like there. Captions are on. Quality 1080p full screen. But without any further delay, let's check out wrecking and trolling the Germans with a wooden plane, the DH-98 Mosquito.
In 1941, the British government finally and reluctantly agreed to let a speed freak build their next warplane. And this man took two 1,600 horsepower engines, stuck them inside of a wooden airplane, and things immediately got out of hand in the best way possible.
Holy shit.
Today we're talking about the
1941?
DH-98 de Havilland Mosquito.
Oh yeah, okay. Heavy fighter then. Wow, beautiful aircraft. Berlin Express, handle with care, nice.
And while the official nickname is the Mosquito, it also goes by the Mossy, the Loping Lumberyard, the Wooden Wonder, and the Timber of Terror. And when something has that many different nicknames, you know it's going to be good. And just like so many other stories, this story too begins with a word from our sponsor, because this video is brought to you by my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got a bunch of really cool retail locations all across the United States.
Not gonna lie, never actually heard of this one before. I think this might be a US only company, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let's hear it though.
So many other stories. This story too begins with a word from our sponsor, because this video is brought to you by my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got a bunch of really cool retail locations all across the United States, and an even better online store where you can get pretty much anything that has anything to do with going outside or being physically active. Or beef jerky. They have a bunch of beef jerky too.
A sporting goods store.
There's a link on my website or in the description down below. You're going to get free shipping on your order. Let's get back to this video. Our story begins in 1909.
If you guys live in the US and you want some free shipping on your order, I know this is obviously an older video, but the ad is still here, so perhaps you can still get some free shipping on that order. Go check it out. Might as well. Holy shit. It's a good deal.
In the description down below, you're going to get free shipping on your order. Let's get back to this video. Our story begins in 1909 with Sir Geoffrey de Havilland. He is 27 years old. He just got married, and he has spent his entire life working on, building, and designing cars and motorcycles. But now, they're just not fast enough. There's this new thing out, airplanes, and they can go even faster. So naturally, he's got to get him one of those. The only problem is, building a plane, as I'm sure you can imagine, costs a lot of money, even back then when they were just biplanes. So where's he going to get all this money? Well, he's going to do exactly
the government,
what any self-respecting man would do. He's going to go to grandma for a 0% interest loan. And when I say a 0% interest loan, I mean he goes to his grandmother and asks for a, and I quote, advance on his inheritance. Straight up, grandma, you need to fucking die or front me the money because I'm trying to make history over here. So
that's
grandma,
insane.
being the gangster that she is, decides that she's going to give little Geoffrey £1,000 for his airplane project. Now, full stop. £1,000, you're like, oh, $1,000, that's a lot of money. No, this is 1909. £1,000 back then is equivalent to like almost $200,000 American, okay?
Yeah, that's
like
insane.
Grandma is apparently loaded. So he gets all this money and he begins designing.
So his grandparents are rich, but imagine like the gall of going to your grandmother and saying, I need an advance on my inheritance. That's fucking insane, bro. I don't have the balls to do that. I don't think many people do. What the fuck? I feel like you'd have to be crazy to do that, man. Holy shit. Desperate times, desperate measures, I guess. And he was already a sir there, 27 years old, so he was already knighted. Is that true? Holy shit. And is that just for his, I mean, de Havilland, right? I mean, is that just for his work that he did, I suppose? Holy shit.
American, okay? Like grandma is
27-year-old and knighted.
So he gets all this money and he begins designing and making his own airplane. And after 2 long years, the day finally comes that his airplane is finished and it's
definitely looks like a heavy bomb or a heavy fighter.
So he hops in, takes his plane up into the sky, and everything goes absolutely perfect right until he crashed it. The plane is completely destroyed, and like every other speed freak and race car driver I've ever met in my entire life, de Havilland just crawls out of the wreckage and was like, "That's fun, let's do that again." He then proceeds to make his very own aircraft manufacturing company. Fast forward a couple of decades, de Havilland owns a very successful airplane company, and it's the early 1930s, and everybody is beginning to make their planes out of metal, but de Havilland isn't having it because he thinks that making planes out of metal is dumb. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, metal weighs more than wood, which means that my plane is going to be slower by making it out of metal. Why on earth would I do that? To which the entire aviation community yells at the guy like, well, metal is stronger than wood, duh. And he's like, fucking, it's an airplane. What? Just don't run it into shit. It'll be fine. If you want strong, go build a tank. What are we even talking about here? Have you ever seen?
Yeah, there's the classic, just don't get shot. You know what I mean? Just don't be a pussy. Be better. I don't know. Like, it's an easy solution when you think about it.
This shit, it'll be fine. If you want strong, go build a tank. What are we even talking about here? Have you ever seen a fucking squirrel with knight's armor on? No, it doesn't make any fucking sense. So de Havilland's like, fine, I'm just gonna have to prove it to these people. 1934, they're gonna have the McRobertson Air Race. It's 11,200 miles from England to Melbourne, Australia. You have to fly all the way there. You can take any route you want. You can stop to refuel as many times as you want. There's this huge cash prize of 15,000 pounds.
Those air races back in the day would have been so cool to participate in, man.
Try to win this race.
Dangerous, but really cool.
DH-98 Comet ends up being the fastest plane in the world at this point in time, and obviously.
Holy shit, look at that thing, dude. Dual props on the front. I don't know if those are turbo props. I'm guessing not back in the day, but I think that's a nice little dual seater there. It looks like. That looks like an interesting design, man. Holy shit. Looks very innovative for the 30s. Holy fuck.
Wins this race. And obviously nobody cares because it's made out of wood and they said that that's dumb. So nobody's going to learn anything from the point he just proved. Fast forward 1936, post-World War I, Germany is starting to rearm their entire country. Britain takes note and they're like, wow, we should build up some weapons too in case they try something. So they put out a bid. They let all the aircraft manufacturers know that they're looking for a twin-engine medium bomber that's capable of carrying 3,000 pounds and medium bomber.
Okay, so tactical bomber.
So there's money to be made with the government contract. All the airplane manufacturers flock to it and start putting in their bids and their designs for their planes. And pretty much all of them follow the conventional knowledge of how to build a bomber at this point in time, which
I'm willing to say I'm wrong, right? The size of that aircraft, just its configuration, I couldn't tell if it was either supposed to be a heavy fighter or if it was more supposed to be like a tactical bomber or what it was supposed to be. Definitely seems like it's supposed to be a tactical bomber. So instead of a fighter bomber or CAS aircraft, they're trying to make it particularly for the purposes of, you know, obviously laying down quite a bit of ordnance, but not enough to like deem it a strategic bomber, right? So interesting. I don't know if I'd want, and that's kind of going like the opposite concept of America, right? Obviously America at this point, if they're building their bombers, they're building them big, they're building them with a lot of fucking defensive armaments, high payload capacity, right? These are supposed to be still tactical bombers, but smaller, a lot sleeker, a lot faster for what a bomber is supposed to be. I can definitely see the advantage of that era if you're trying to just get in there quick before they have a chance to spool fighters. Obviously, when you're fighting AA, I think that's where this thing is going to obviously kind of meet its match more so. But against other planes, I could see this thing being kind of a monster.
And pretty much all of them follow the conventional knowledge of how to build
unexpectedly
a bomber at
fast
time, which was to have a humongous, powerful airplane made out of metal and absolutely covered in machine guns everywhere, because you need to be able to fire in all directions to fight off all the fighter planes that are going to try to shoot you down. And absolutely everybody,
even like the Lancaster bomber and stuff on the British side was like that.
He decides that he's going to build a plane
the Starlins and shit like that.
Ideology from everybody else. Instead of having a plane that's going to have armor and machine guns and be able to win a firefight firefight in the air against other fighter planes, he's just going to avoid the firefight altogether. Because at the end of the day, the bomber's job isn't to shoot down fighter airplanes, it's to deliver the bomb. He's going to get rid of all the armor, all the machine guns, all the defensive countermeasures that other bombers have, and use all of his efforts to try to get this plane as fast as possible to just be able to outrun the firefight. Because you know what's better than getting shot at and having body armor on? Not getting shot at. Realizing that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, he's going to make this plane as fast as possible, and to do that, he's going to make it out of wood again. So he builds his wooden bomber. He then proceeds
again, that sounds like a good idea, but I think AA fire, like again, ground AA fire is the countermeasure to that. Again, they're fast, but with it being a wooden airframe, and obviously with how powerful flak is, right? And you got to think of like the casualty rates of bomber crews, especially in later war attacks against Germany at that point, right? Most of the casualties came from AA fighter, right? They didn't have any fucking aircraft to spool at that point, right? So yes, while you're able to get in there, get out, I'm sure you could avoid the bulk, some of the flak, and probably before even ground crews are able to spool and are able to react even is the ideal, right? But still, man, if you start taking flak up in that air there, I mean, wooden airframe is not something I'd want to be in. You know what I mean? That's just me personally. Maybe again, they outran the flak. I don't know, right? But
to do that, he's going to make it out of wood again. So he builds his wooden bomber. He then proceeds to take the most powerful aircraft engine on the planet, the Merlin, and sticks two of them inside of this thing. And this aircraft is the fastest warplane on the planet. With a cruising speed of 325 miles an hour and a max speed of almost 400 miles an hour, this thing is absolutely untouchable, and that's not even the impressive
850 kilometer an hour, 870.
De Havilland's idea stands
It's fucking fast for a prop plane, man.
Remember, they're going into World War II. Plastic wasn't widely used yet, and anything that's plastic today was probably metal back then. Metal was used for absolutely everything from canteens to tanks to airplanes. All of it was metal, meaning that throughout the course of World War II, metal became extremely scarce, so much so that America was trying to build ships out of concrete, and Great Britain was trying to build an aircraft carrier out of wood pulp and ice. So being able to build a bomber out of a cheap and readily available resource like wood was a humongous deal. And it all trickles down from there, because not only are you just using an untapped resource, by using wood, that means that you're not going to have metal workers and riveters working on the plane. You're going to have woodworkers working on your plane, which at this point in time was a pretty much untapped labor pool that was still doing other stuff like building cabinets and pianos. They had no real way to contribute to the war effort, except now they do. And the list of benefits keeps going. I feel like I'm in an infomercial.
I did actually never think about that, right? Yeah, they're literally woodworkers during World War II or most other wars, right? Well, wars prior to that, of course, definitely useful. But yeah, in World War II, yeah, woodworkers, you think, yeah, not that useful, right? Everyone's working in either canning factories or metallurgy factories, or of course, manufacturing plants, things of that nature, right? I mean, you can't make any wood, any war machine out of wood in World War II, right? But yeah, no, totally true. You obviously can, and if you can figure out how to do that in an effective way, yeah, especially in Britain, completely untapped labor market, completely untapped what would you say, logistic of war, I guess you could say, in terms of like their population there, which is very interesting. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. God damn. A lot of people there that like, and especially if you're trying to like not poach labor, right, from other people, right? No one's using those people in terms of like, again, war production, war economy, right? Shit, I mean, that's a good idea, actually.
War effort, except now they do. And the list of benefits keeps going. I feel like I'm in an infomercial.
But I'm not done yet.
Oh,
because
no.
the Mosquito's plan is not to fight firefights in the air, but to simply outrun them, you know what the Mosquito doesn't need? Machine guns. You know what you don't need if you don't have machine guns?
Ammo.
Ammunition. And you know what you also don't need if you don't have machine guns? People to fire the machine guns. So you're also saving guns, ammunition, and personnel, because the Mosquito only has 2 crew members. And you know what all those things do? They add weight to the aircraft, like over 1,000 pounds, meaning that now that all that's gone, the Mosquito can now carry an extra 1,000 pounds worth of bombs to drop on the enemy, which is actually what a bomber's job is. So just to recap, de Havilland has now delivered a bomber to the British government that is made out of a readily available resource with a brand new untapped labor pool that is cheaper in pretty much every way, and it delivers more bombs faster to the enemy. So clearly, the British government fucking hates it. And I mean, really, Sir Geoffrey de Havilland really should be more considerate. How are these poor politicians and defense contractors going to be able to feed their kids if he's out here trying to make planes that are cheap and reliable?
Again, and I can understand the hesitation, right? From their perspective, especially if this is like the early 40s, right? This isn't a late war Germany. If they, I mean, yeah, the speed, again, they can dictate, like, yeah, like the whole purpose is to get in there, get out without getting shot at, right? Enemy aircraft are probably not going to be able to catch you at all at this point, right? But again, if you take any amount of flak fire, right, at all, I think they probably looked at the survivability of that thing and they probably just, fuck, I mean, would you want to fly that into enemy controlled territory? Yeah, you're fast, man. But again, one stray flak shell on your wooden hull and you're fucked. Like, you are fucked. So I can kind of see what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was as simple as, oh yeah, they just fucking hated it because, you know, but I can see the hesitation for sure.
Is going to be able to feed their kids if he's out here trying to make planes that are cheap and reliable. I mean, what's the point of even going to war if you're not going to make a bunch of money off of it, right? Look, I guess I'm just glad it's not a uniquely American thing for this to happen. So all the other aircraft manufacturers are talking smack about de Havilland's idea. They're saying that it's basically a giant model airplane and that wood is not a suitable building material.
I bet you civvy side, those things are fun as fuck.
And all this other stuff that they're desperately trying to come up with so that he doesn't win the bid. And that's when Lord Teeny Mittens, I mean Beaverbrook over here chimes in. He's the Minister of Aircraft Production for all of Britain and he just shuts the project down. I'm assuming it's because a giant model airplane would make his hands look even tinier.
I've got these tiny hands and that's gonna make them look even tinier.
In fact, the only person that even liked the idea of the Mosquito was the Air Marshal for the RAF, Sir Wilfrid Freeman, who also, by sheer coincidence, is the only man in this conversation that has flown planes in combat and presumably knows what he's actually talking about and doesn't have a vested financial interest in the outcome. Freeman is also responsible for the RAF ordering the Spitfire, the Hurricane, and the Lancaster bomber, as well as the development of the Merlin engine. Like, he's got a pretty good track record of picking amazing planes. So obviously we're going to listen to what Sir Wilfrid Freeman has to say, right? Wrong. 100% wrong. What we're going to do is we're going to have Lord Bitch Mittens over here, fire him, transfer him to a different department, and then take credit for all of his accomplishments and use that newfound status to kill the Mosquito project once and for all. Because politics. And that's pretty much it. 1937, the British government told de Havilland, kick rocks, we're not interested. We're going to move on.
Yeah, and that's in 37 even. That's before the start of the war, which is very, very interesting, or at least I think before, right before hostilities kicked off there. So they probably changed their mind pretty quickly, right? Especially when the war started. Obviously, France fell in, what was it, 41, I believe, 41. Either way, France fell, right? And then at that point, they're like, oh, fuck, oh, shit. The Battle of Britain is in full swing. Obviously, they're losing mass amounts of aircraft, and they want to be able to produce aircraft in the cheapest, most effective way possible, especially not hampering their current production lines. And again, with that untapped labor market, you can definitely see where that came in, and especially with a lot of British weaponry and stuff at the time, right? Like the Sten gun, all those weapons were meant to save time, meant to save material, more so than anything else, which is very interesting, you know. But they tried to do everything the cheapest they could, which makes sense given the time period, right? And especially given their proximity to Germany, and the only way they were getting supplied on their island, right, was obviously their overseas empire and America, right? So yeah, I mean, they definitely wanted it for sure.
Newfound status to kill the Mosquito project once and for all. Because politics. And that's pretty much it. 1937, the British government told de Havilland, kick rocks, we're not interested. We're going to move on with our life. Fast forward, 1940, World War II has in fact kicked off, and it is not looking that great for the British because we are right in the middle of the Battle of Britain. Okay, if you don't know, the Battle of Britain, also known as the Air Battle for England, was basically the Germans were bombing Britain every day for about 3 months straight. Britain was obviously sending up their air force to fight back. Both sides lost thousands of people and thousands of airplanes. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you the RAF is now short a bunch of planes and a bunch of pilots, and there's really no way of replenishing the amount of planes because metal is extremely scarce, as well as the manpower to make the planes anyways. If only there was some type of plane that they could make out of an alternative material to metal that had a completely different labor force to build it. Oh wait, we've had that literally the entire time, we just didn't want to use it because of politics. Perfect. So the British government...
Again, and again, you have to remember, I think he's kind of going a little left field there, in my opinion, just a little bit. You have to remember what the purpose of this plane was, right? If it wasn't a fighter and it was attack aircraft, if a tactical bomber, I should say, I just say tac aircraft, but a tactical bomber, right? there wasn't a quote unquote need for that, right? They were more focused on, I think, defensive aircraft or fighter aircraft at that time, mostly, again, just to defend France and defend the island after France fell. And after they realized, like, oh, fuck, we might actually have to go to Berlin to end this fucking war, right? Where peace isn't going to happen with Germany. They just took France, right? Peace could have happened before. It sure as fuck isn't happening now. Their gonads are fucking enlarged, right? They're winning, right? They're winning the war. So now Britain has to go on the offense. How can we do that in the cheapest way possible? Now this idea comes back, right? So I think, I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and talk about politics, money, right? I'm sure that was obviously a portion of it, but you have to obviously remember the mentality of the time and just what they thought they needed, right? Why would they build tactical bombers prior to the start of World War II, especially when they think at this point, prior to France falling, prior to all that, they're going to win, right? And now, obviously, that is a stupid World War I mentality, right? Don't get me wrong, but the purpose wasn't to go bomb, you know, enemy territory or to bomb enemy manufacturing or anything. That there was no real need for a tactical bomber of that class, I guess you could say, right? Especially one that was done cheaply, right? Like they could afford to before the war to obviously make their ship properly, quote unquote, right? So.
Literally the entire time, we just didn't want to use it because of politics. Perfect. So the British government finally reluctantly orders 50 of them. So de Havilland gets to work right away, builds all these planes, turns them over to the RAF. The RAF then starts practicing with them, and the pilots absolutely love them. The only problem is they're a little bit hard to take off and land, which makes sense because they're basically a paper airplane with a fucking V8 attached to them. So the decision gets made that only the best pilots are going to be allowed to fly these things, and now we got to find what the first mission for the Mosquito is going to be, and it's going to be super secret because nobody knows that this plane even exists yet. So up until this point in the war, the British really didn't have a surveillance plane capable of flying over enemy territory and seeing what they were up to, so they were actually using their fighters, the Spitfire, to do that. And while the Spitfire is awesome, it sucked for this particular job because it simply couldn't hold enough fuel to go very far into enemy territory.
That makes sense.
The Mosquito, on the other hand, instead of filling it with bombs, we're just going to fill it with an extra gas tank, and this thing is going to be able to fly from England all the way to the Soviet Union and back in one flight without refueling, and that's exactly what it does. Yeah, the Mosquito is for all intents and purposes the world's first long-range reconnaissance aircraft that set the groundwork for every aircraft after it. It's basically the
actually a really good idea for it.
So that's what they use it for the rest of 1941. 1942 rolls around, they're like, oh, hey, good idea. This thing can hold 4,000 pounds worth of ordnance. What if we just did
That's impressive.
500-pound bomb and some extra fuel tanks, and then we could bomb super deep into enemy territory? And that's exactly what they're going to do. Operation Jericho, a bunch of wooden wonders are going to low-level penetrate deep into enemy territory and deliver a payload. Try saying that with a straight face.
Payload to where, I wonder?
Take off to Norway. They are going to bomb Gestapo headquarters with
take off to Norway.
Bombs. They fly all the way there above the ground and or ocean at like 100 feet, make it there more or less completely undetected, and bomb Gestapo headquarters. The only problem was because they were so low to the ground, they decided that they were going to extend the fuse time on the bombs because they don't detonate on impact, they detonate on a timer. So they extended the timer to 11 seconds to allow the planes to get out of the blast radius of the bomb. So
Makes
they went ahead
sense.
and they dropped the bombs. The bombs were a direct hit on the Gestapo building. The only problem was the fuse was a little bit too long, and a 500-pound bomb traveling at like 400 miles an hour apparently has enough force in it to go through one wall, through the building, and out the other wall, and all four of the bombs did exactly that, flying completely through the building before detonating. So the mission failed successfully. Did they accomplish their goal? Not really, but they did prove that the Mosquitoes were pretty much unstoppable and very accurate. So now they're going to begin using the Mosquitoes to nuisance bomb Germany. Every night they're going to begin sending out.
And you can absolutely see how annoying these things would be to react to, especially if they're using them in, again, either reconnaissance roles or for surprise attacks like that, right? They're coming in low, they're coming in hot. They're so fucking fast that normal fighters, conventional fighters, German fighters are not going to be able to keep up with those. Plain and simple, you have to rely on AA. Your ground crews need to be on. And if you got no idea they're coming, man, yeah, I can see that being super, super dangerous. And again, I mean, I'm not dissing the idea of the aircraft. I think they're, again, very smart for what they are. It's just, holy shit, you know what I'm saying? You can always say, like, in hindsight, oh, why didn't they build these sooner? But I think it was just the case of that pre-war mentality, right? British mentality. And then after, obviously, British politics fundamentally changed quite a bit. after France fell, as we all famously know. So yeah, I think that was largely a big portion of it, right? I'm gonna have to look more into this aircraft. This seems like a kick-ass aircraft, man.
Now, they're going to begin using the mosquitoes to nuisance bomb Germany. Every night, they're going to begin sending out swarms of mosquitoes to bomb Germany on their own home turf to begin weakening their morale. And with the mosquitoes, this works for some reason way better than any other plane was ever able to do it. Like, the mosquitoes rarely ever get caught when they're dropping bombs. So they're kind of like, okay, well, let's try a bigger bomb then. And the RAF starts using the mosquito to drop the 4,000-pound blockbuster bomb on Berlin. They then proceeded to do that every single night for 220 nights straight, earning the nickname the Berlin Express. And then somebody at the RAF finally puts together the fact that maybe the mosquitoes are so successful at not getting caught on their bombing runs, not necessarily because it's nighttime and not necessarily because they're really fast,
radar,
but because they're made out of wood, and wood doesn't give off nearly as strong of a radar signature as metal does.
I was thinking about that.
It stands to reason that they would have just as much success bombing during the day as they would at night, which, if successful, is going to be extra demoralizing because at this point in time, everybody understands that there's never bombing raids during the daylight because the fighter jets would be able to take them out immediately. But in the case of the Mosquito, if they don't get picked up on radar, nobody might scramble the fighter jets until it's too late. So the RAF, with their immaculate sense of British humor, realize that this is a very rare opportunity to troll the enemy that they cannot afford to waste.
Of course.
So British intelligence finds out that January 30th, 1943, the Nazis are going to be holding a humongous rally to celebrate their 10-year anniversary of coming to power. It's going to be huge. Hitler's right-hand man, Hermann Göring's going to be there giving a big speech. They're going to put the entire thing out on the radio waves so the whole country can hear it. It's going to be a huge
Chief of the Air Force is going to be there as fucking British planes fly over. Oh no.
Sent out the mosquitoes and
it's embarrassing.
All of the broadcasting towers for Berlin, so the entire country just got to hear explosions, screams, and then the radio cut out forever. And then the British turned it into an entire propaganda thing because not only are we hitting you on your own home turf in broad daylight, it's also in a wooden plane. So the Nazis are absolutely furious. They want to retaliate, so they ramp up air raids on Britain. The only problem is they can't really pull them off in daylight, but it is 1943, so they have figured out how to put radar in their individual fighter planes, meaning that the night raids are going to be far more successful than they ever were before. Or so they thought, because guess what? The British have a plane that's pretty much immune to radar.
And it's funny too, because obviously in these vengeance raids, right, Britain largely their civilian complexes were targeted, right, and that largely has to come down to what happened in Berlin there, right. But they didn't bomb airfields per se. They didn't bomb their AA per se. They didn't bomb tactical buildings. They mostly just tried to like give it back to the British, right? Bomb their civilian industry, get the population to want to surrender more so. Obviously, with Churchill's fucking never surrender, you know, didn't really happen, right? Wasn't effective. It just emboldened the British population to not surrender, right? For that case, so it had the opposite effect, unfortunately, for the Germans there, right? But yeah, and it just caused them to waste a mass amount of men and material, especially in their entire air force as well, into Britain there, right? And you got to think, right, over on the Eastern Front, obviously, they still had the Soviets to contend with in terms of their aircraft. Now, Soviet aircraft at this time weren't as good, but still a fuckload of planes. They had to split their planes two-front war kind of style, right? Same as they did with their conventional army. Except they lost most of their planes over Britain, and they just never got that production capability back, right? Obviously, they still built planes, and they arguably built way better planes when you're talking about like the jet fighters that came after, right? But again, the production quality was never there, and they were never able to match Allied numbers ever again after 42, 43, right? I think they were slightly behind, but close-ish, and then the Battle of Britain happened, and it just they never recovered. And how could it, right? Like after that.
Or so they thought, because guess what? The British have a plane that's pretty much immune to radar. So they take the Mosquito bomber and they turn it into the bomber fighter by putting 4 20mm machine guns in the nose, plus another 4 Browning machine guns in the nose, and then send them out as night fighters, and they proceed to absolutely wreck the Luftwaffe in night combat because they can't be seen by radar and they have radar to see them. Then, after seeing how incredibly good the Mosquito was at night fighting, the RAF had another brilliant idea. What if they sent out a bunch of Mosquito night fighters to wait above German airfields and then sent out regular bombing raids with regular bombers, and when those bombers got picked up on radar, they would scramble the German fighters to go up and intercept them, but the Mosquitoes
That's a
would
good
already
idea.
be above them and literally
Bomb the
spawn
airfield.
kill the Germans
Yeah.
the second they got in the air. Not
Wow.
only did this work, it virtually shut down the Luftwaffe's ability to operate at night altogether, and the British were able to bomb Germany completely unopposed. At this point, Hermann Göring is sitting in his office like,
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
okay, and you have to remember,
You have to remember too, at this point in time in 43, right? Again, German Air Force is neutered. What planes they do have, they don't have enough to spool in numbers to actually be able to stop this threat. They just threw everything they had really into the Battle of Britain, and everything left still is on the Eastern Front at this point, right? Trying to contend with the Soviet Air Force, as well as the Allied force, which is obviously conducting bombing raids over Germany at this point, right? So yeah, like they were already fucked, you know what I mean? Like this was just kind of ensuring it. But yeah, they already were fucked. They didn't have the ability to fight back in the air. I think already by this point it was there, but very minimally.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
okay, and you have to remember, Hermann Göring in World War I was a fighter pilot. He scored 7 kills in World War I, making him an ace. So like the whole aerial combat thing is like his ballpark. So the fact that the RAF is having a warheads on foreheads extravaganza and there's nothing he can do about it is driving him absolutely insane. And then you sprinkle on top the fact that he's over there with his superior German engineering and the RAF is just dunking on him and his men in what amounts to a Pinewood Derby plane. This man is about to lose his mind. So he creates a special division of the Luftwaffe whose sole purpose is to find and destroy the Mosquitoes. Okay, they're already struggling in the war, and this man has now just cut out an entire section of his Air Force to do nothing but hunt down these wooden planes and try to destroy them.
Wow.
Needless to say, it fails miserably. So at this point, Hermann Göring's like, well, if I
I don't know
can't
how
beat him, I've got to join him. So he orders his men
know how that
to
would
build
work.
him a wooden plane. And they straight up copy the Mosquito. Like so much so that they also call it the Mosquito, but they just spell it with a K. Like straight
Mosquito.
up, yeah, you can copy my homework, but make it look a little bit different. That's what they did. So they get the Mosquito with a K built, and to the surprise of absolutely nobody, it's a pretty awesome plane. But then guess what happens to it? You're never gonna guess what happens to the German Mosquito. A bunch of high-ranking Nazis, politicians, get together and they're like, I don't think a wooden plane's a good idea. I want big metal planes with metal armor and a bunch of machine guns all over them because that's the way to go. The same political BS that shut down the British Mosquito 10 years prior is now holding up the Nazis. So much so that they don't even
And this came down to, of course, like Nazi, what would you say, I guess, belligerents at the time, right? They thought they were at the height of shit, and they kind of were in terms of like some of their best engineering feats. But again, you got to remember their standard army, their conventional troops, and even a lot of their basic equipment was not the best per se. They just had really, like, the shit that they had that was really, really good was really, really good, but they had fucking none of it. That's the problem, right? Like, so, and in this case, right, obviously in 43, right, they see victory right around the corner, right? Russia should be dead already, right? The Soviet Union, they should already be gone. How the fuck are they still fighting? Any fucking day now they're going to submit. And the second they submit, Britain's fucked. The Americans are fucked. Everyone over on the West is fucked. Africa is fucked. It'll be over. Once the Soviets are done, it'll be over. And they plan their entire fiscal year, I think in 42 off of, they based their fiscal year of 42 off of owning the Soviet Union in 41. So economically, they were already at such a fucking downturn in 43 that they just, this could have helped them a lot. But again, that hubris, right? This isn't the best. This isn't the biggest. Again, this isn't over-engineered to shit. We're better than this, right? We're not going to use it. I can see why they didn't, you know what I mean? But they probably should have, right? They probably should. They needed something, again, like Britain during the early years of the war. Their production numbers got fucked. They're now on the back foot. They had their advantage. They threw it away. Now they need to get those production numbers back up. How do you do that? You just got to mass produce something really, really quality as cheaply as you can. The Mosquito clone would have been a great way to do that, but unfortunately not. You know what I'm saying?
British Mosquito 10 years
Well, fortunately not, but you know what I mean.
Holding up the Nazis. So much so that they don't even get their first test flight in until June of 1944, which is way too late in the war for the Nazis to begin making a new type of plane and mass producing it. So that's it. The Germans never really got their version of the Mosquito. They ended up losing World War II. Everybody lived happily ever after. So I guess while it was dipshit politicians with teeny hands that prevented the British
His hands
from getting the
are
mosquito on
unnaturally
time,
small. What the fuck?
It was also dipshit politicians that prevented the Nazis from getting the mosquito on time. So everything kind of equals out in a weird roundabout kind of way. In conclusion, the de Havilland Mosquito at a glance might appear to be this one-off weird thing that happened one time during World War II, but in reality it is probably the single most important and influential aircraft in aviation history. You see, all planes today are not built with the ideology that they need to have armor and machine guns in order to take a
speed
hit and
is
return
now
fire. At least
the
most
biggest
of them
thing.
aren't.
Wow.
They would pretty much all much rather be so fast that they can't be caught, or so sneaky that they never get seen. And that
But they're not made of wood.
strategy was pioneered by a wooden plane in World War II known as a de Havilland Mosquito. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. Also, the more I study history, the more absolutely positive I become that all politicians are morons, and I'm pretty sure the only reason they have to run for office is because they can't walk and chew bubblegum for office.
That's true. That's not necessarily wrong. Oh, another one?
Okay, no, seriously. It's like the saying, oh, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Ha ha ha. Except the horse is somehow your boss that you're, for some reason, partially responsible for hiring, but also you have no authority to fire. And now the horse is like making all these amazing stock trades with top secret information that only the horse could know, which is illegal, but also the horse gets to determine what's illegal, so you have no standing to do anything about it, even though you hired the horse and now you can't fire it. Go buy a shirt at thefatelectrician.com. Thanks.
That got a little personal at the end there, I think, but no, true. Yeah, go buy a shirt at thefatelectrician.com. His merch is honestly fantastic looking. Does a great job on his merch, I have to say. Yeah, guys, that was another awesome video. That was wrecking and trolling the Germans with a wooden plane, the DH-98 Mosquito. Very interesting concept for an aircraft, I have to say. Never really knew it was that successful and didn't really know any of the specifics of the aircraft to begin with there. To see the rule from obviously... Well, I mean, again, I thought it was a fighter, but it was always produced and built with as a tactical bomber in mind there. So that was super cool. And then the second they armored it up, again, with the speed quality of it, and again, the anti, I guess, radar detection capabilities of it, just naturally because it's a wooden aircraft, wooden airframe. Super cool plane, man. And again, I imagine civvy side, those things are super, super fast. I don't know if any still exist or if they existed civvy side in any regard. I know obviously a lot of military aircraft after their military services done with, right, especially in those days, they did get converted over to civilian use. I don't know if that's the case with this one, but shit, sounds like a really sick aircraft, and it'd be really cool to see one day and actually see how it was designed with those wooden parts and whatnot in mind, or with that wooden airframe in mind there. No, thought this was a great video. If you guys enjoyed the reaction, do hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. Big thank you, of course, to all of our members. Join our Discord if you're not in it, and of course, a special thank you to all of our prefects. That'll be B, Coon, Hobbit, Dagenhart, and of course, Andrew. I appreciate you guys, and without any further delay, this has been Centurion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.